Hello everybody, Spitfire here with Vigor, and today we're here with something very, very different. So, today we're going to be ranking every single weapon in Vigor from very worst to very best. So, yeah, before we get this video started, if you guys like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, please hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below, and with all that being said, let's get a little deeper into this video. So, before we start with the list, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. So, first of all, there will be no knives in this ranking, because, I mean, come on, all knives are pretty much the same except for the John, but even then, it's just no knives, and I'm sorry for all you VZ58 Bayonet fans, but knives are just unnecessary. Second of all, these descriptions of the weapons I'm going to be giving is going to be very brief. I probably give them 10, 20 seconds, because if I were to dedicate even a minute to these things, this video would be about an hour long, and that's not, I don't want to edit that, so, yeah. And, yeah, that's really the only ground rules, so... Alright, first of all, now here's how this list is going to be judged. Weapons are going to be based on 3 categories. 1, their reliability. 2, just how good they are as a weapon in terms of stats and on paper. And 3, it's just going to come down to my personal experiences with these weapons. Now, I've used every single weapon in this game at some point or another, and I want to say I've probably gotten over 20 kills with each of these weapons, except for, like, the very worst, but even still, I have plenty of experience with all of these weapons. So, with all that being said, I'm going to stop yapping. Well, actually, I'm going to keep talking, but not about... You get what I'm saying. We're going to go on to the list, so, yeah, with all that being said, like I said, I'm going to say this again. If you guys do enjoy this, please hit the like button, subscribe, and if you want more, comment down below. So, with all that being said, let's get into this video, everybody. Coming in at number 56, we have the crossbow. I mean, I don't really know what you expected. It's the crossbow. This thing's awful. Terrible range. Terrible range. Terrible accuracy, and it has one shot. I don't know what you expect. Coming at number 55, we have the PM. Once again, this weapon basically just shoots peas. Like, this thing is borderline useless. The only reason why it's ahead of the crossbow is because at least you have a good chance of hitting a headshot with this thing. 54, Luger. It's the same story as the PM. The only difference is the Luger looks cooler, so, you know, I give it brownie points there, but it also is around just slightly better. Just slightly. 53, M1911. This might be the first hot take of this list, because I know a lot of people like this weapon, but, it's just a Makarov, but slightly better. Like, it really is not much to write home about. And coming in at number 52, we have the, however the heck you pronounce that. Yeah, this thing's not very good. Once again, this weapon might be kind of low, but, I mean, low rate of fire. I'm not a fan of the scope. It doesn't do that much damage. It's just not good. Coming in number 51, we have the PM63 rack. Now, this one, honestly, I feel kind of bad putting it this low because it really doesn't deserve it. Like, this gun is really not that bad. But, I mean, it doesn't do that much damage. It doesn't have that much range. But it's a secondary. It's not supposed to. So, you have some solace there. Coming at number 50, we have the Scorpion. I think it's just a slightly better version of the PM63. I mean, it does a little more damage, and it tends to be a little bit more consistent, at least with me anyway. So, yeah. Coming at number 49, we have the Grease Gun. This is a weird one. I despise the Grease Gun. I think it is absolutely terrible. It does slow rate of fire, very low damage, very low accuracy. It's probably the worst SMG in the game, straight up. 48, Thompson. This weapon's not horrible. It's just, you could use literally any other AR and you'd be better off. Or not AR, sorry, SMG, and you'd be way better off. This thing's just it's not that great. 47, Sawed-Off Shotgun. This is a weird one. So, the Sawed-Off, it has good damage. My biggest issue with it is it's so inconsistent. There are some times where I get an easy double pump and they're gone, and there are other times where I put like 8 shells into somebody and they look like they just got done from walking like a picnic walk. Like, I don't know, this thing's just really inconsistent with me. So, yeah. 46, we have the Gal. Definitely one of the better secondaries. This thing's kind of a headshot machine, I'll be honest. This thing, if you're good at aiming, this thing is pretty great, especially for a secondary. very respectable. I'm just personally not a huge fan of it. So, yeah. Coming at number 45, we have Silver Pigeon. Yeah, this thing's awful. I do not like the Silver Pigeon at all. It is probably my least favorite shotgun in the entire game. I feel like ever since Season 11, this shotgun just got... It's better, but it's still really weird, and it just doesn't really have a place in the sandbox for me. Not a huge fan of Silver Pigeon at all. So, yeah. Moving on. KS-23. This one, the only reason why it's higher than the Silver Pigeon is it has more shells. I mean, that's pretty much... And it has better range. But mostly just the shells. I mean, it's not... Like, I feel like I can snipe a lot more with this thing. And once again, it just has more shells. That's all I really have to say about it. 43, we have the PSS, the suppressed pistol. Oh god, this thing. I have a history with this thing. This thing is not... I just don't like this gun. It just... My biggest gripe with it is... It has good accuracy, it has good range, and the fact that it's suppressed is kind of nice. My only gripe with this pistol is low ammo and low damage. Like I said, if you can hit your headshots, this thing's great. It's perfectly adequate for a pistol. But if you're aiming center mass, this thing is borderline useless. So, coming in at number 42, we have the first LMG of the list, the UK VZ59. This is the beginning of the list of the, quote, nothing LMGs, the LMGs that literally nobody uses. So, I mean, this thing is, I mean, it's okay. It's not great. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't know that much about this LMG. I haven't used this thing in a quick minute, but from what I remember, it's really bulky. It's just worse than all the other LMGs. It just doesn't, it feels the worst. And I don't know, this one's weird. Coming at number 41, we have the M60E3S. Oh, God. God. Jesus. Oh. Take a breather. Hold on. I'm gonna die from talking so much. Jesus. Coming in at number 41, we have the M60ES. Or E3, not S. My bad, typo. But yeah, this thing, I mean, the one thing I will say about this weapon is it's slow fire rate, but it packs a punch. It does pretty good damage. If you're proning and someone's back is turned to you and you're gonna shred them. This thing's not bad at all. Like I said, the only real problem I have with it is it's heavy and it's just really, really slow fire rate. So, yeah. And number 40, we have the dinner plate of death, or the NVG. Now, I love this thing, okay? This thing's great and all, but it's not... It just doesn't do enough damage to be practical in most situations. Like I said, this thing is absolutely an absolute blast to use, but practically speaking, it's not really all that great. I'm going to be totally honest with you, so yeah. Coming in at number 39, we have the ZAM-72. This is my least favorite sniper in the game by far, and I don't know what it is with this sniper. I think it's just a mix of it. I mean, if I describe, it's just a poor man's SVD. That's the best way I can describe this thing. In actuality, it really isn't that bad. Honestly, I'm looking at this, I really should have put this higher, but I just can't. It's not... I just don't like this weapon. I don't know what it is. I think it's the sights are kind of iffy. It's just not consistent. It's not like the SVD where it packs a punch. It's just not that great. All right. Coming in at number 38, we have the PKM. This is kind of one of those, another one of those nothing LMGs. This thing is okay. It's nothing special. Like, I don't really have much thoughts on this thing. It's just kind of, like, it's just kind of there. That's really all I have to say about the PKM. RPK. This is an OG weapon. I respect this thing, but it's got a few things holding it back for me. And I think the biggest one is just the recoil. The recoil on this thing is absolutely insane. Even if you're crouching, this thing is just... This recoil is absolutely brutal. Its damage is great. Its accuracy is pretty good, but the recoil is just so hard to control. So, yeah. Coming in number 36, we have the RPK-74. I mean, this is literally just the RPK, but slightly better. Like, there's literally nothing to talk about here. It's just the RPK, but slightly better. Coming in at number 35, we have the PHM-82. This thing is, oh boy. This thing is basically like the blue sniper I talked about way back, like earlier in the list. I can't remember the exact number. I'm sure I'll have it up on screen. But this thing is just the super upgraded version of that. It's not... it's not special. It has the same problems. The only real change is its scope is way better, its damage is better, and it staggers a lot more. I mean, that's pretty much, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this thing, but this weapon is very respectable. Coming at number 34, we have the IZH. This one is interesting. I like the IZH, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like, this is a hot take, but I feel like most shotguns in this game are just really hard to use right. Like, getting close to people in this game is really hard. And the IZH, it's not a guarantee, unless you hit them like center mass guarantee. It's not a guaranteed kill most of the time. At least in my experiences anyway. But this weapon is still very respectable, and I have a lot of respect for this weapon, so yeah. Alright, coming in number 33, we have the VZ58P. This one, this is a knockoff AKM. That's all I'm going to say. This thing is literally just a knockoff AKM. I know some people really like this weapon, but I hate this thing, man. It's inaccurate. The only thing it has going for it is good fire rate. It has low damage. The accuracy on it is just, it's bad. I don't know. This weapon is just, it's not something I'm a fan of at all. So, yeah. Coming in number 32, we have the Lawnmower of Destruction. Oh god, this thing is interesting, man. I love this thing. This is one of my personal favorite weapons, although, admittedly, it is not very practical. Its fire rate is great. Its damage is great. The problem is it's really bulky, and it's just not, like I said, it's just not practical in most situations. Like, unless you're hugging them, or you're, like, at a medium distance, it's just not very practical. It's kind of hard to explain or put it into words, but if you use LMGs, especially ones like this, you'll understand what I mean pretty dang quick. Like, if you are surprised by somebody, it is really hard to rebound in a fight when you have this thing. Because it takes so long to pull up, and it takes a really long time just to get going. So, yeah. Alright. Coming at number 31, we have the Mosin. I love this thing. This Mosin is honestly one of my favorite guns. If you were to ask me a season ago what I thought about this thing, I would honestly say it would be in like the high 40s. This thing used to be absolutely awful. But honestly, it's pretty good now. Like, it's just really satisfying to use. And I mean, has basically no bloom. It's highly accurate. The biggest weakness of this thing is it's really slow. The fire rate is really slow, and it's just really hard to win a pitch gunfight with this thing. It's just really, it's like if you're close range to somebody, you're done. Like, this thing is, unless you just nail your shots, it's just really hard to get anything done with this thing. So, yeah. Coming at number 32, we have the M2 Carbine. Once again, this is a weapon I have mad respect for. If you use this thing, mad respect, because I mean, it's, like I said, this is a pretty middle-of-the-road weapon. It's not bad. It has decent fire rate, decent damage, decent range, decent irons. Like, this thing is just it's just pretty good. Like, I don't have much to say about it, because it's just kind of middle-of-the-road. 29, we have the Combat Magnum. This one, for me, I feel I like the Combat Magnum, but there's always, my biggest issue with Combat Magnum is it's inconsistent. Like, I feel like it should stagger more or less. It's all over the place. Like, I hit somebody one time and they can be staggered for a good 3 seconds, and I hit someone another time and they just don't even flinch. Like, I don't know. That's the only reason why this thing isn't higher, but overall, I love this thing. Like I said, high damage, high accuracy, and it's pretty quick to pull up. Like, I like the Combat Magnum overall, so yeah. Coming in at number 28, and this thing is perfectly in the middle of the road, we have the AK-74 KSU, or just the Pocket AK. I like this thing. I think this thing is pretty good. My only real gripe with it is its range is pretty terrible, and the bloom can get kind of crazy. Well, I think crazy isn't the right word. It can get a bit much, and its range is pretty bad. Besides that, though, it's great. Good damage, good fire rate. It's light. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, so yeah. Coming at number 27, we have the KK66. This one's kind of a meme gun. This thing shreds, though. Like, straight up. This thing straight up, like, this thing is basically like the Lawnmower of Death, except that its fire rate is just stupid. Like, it is so stupid. If you are in any close range fight, you will shred anybody in an instant with this thing, assuming you don't just headshot them. This thing is absolutely crazy in the right situation. Like, the only reason why it's this low is just because it's the farther away you get from somebody, the less practical this thing becomes. Like, at longer, medium range, this thing is just not very practical. But let me tell you, if you do close the distance, this thing is absolutely lethal. Coming at number 26, we have the PAMD-82, or the Craigslist AKM. This is a really interesting one. This is a weird weapon. This is just a strange weapon. It's a good kind of strange, because it can go single fire, it can go full auto, it can go burst, and it does pretty satisfactory in every single one of those roles. I think it's one of the most unique weapons in the game, and even just the look of it, it looks makeshift. Like, it looks like someone just stitched this together and just said, all right, here we go, let's just send it, and then that's what you get. I don't know. I don't know what it is with this gun. I just like it. I think it's pretty middle of the road, but I got mad respect for it. So, yeah. All right. Coming at number 25, we have the G3 without the scope. And I can't say, and the reason why I don't call it by its actual name is because I can't pronounce it to save my life. It's a G3 without the scope, just the AR. Let's talk about positives with this thing. High damage, good accuracy, good fire rate. The only thing I don't like about it is its iron sights are pretty awful, and it only has 21 bullets, which for an AR is pretty bad. So, yeah. Coming in at number 24, we have the SKS. This one, I like this weapon. I think my biggest thing with this, the only real problem I have with this weapon is that it only has 10 shots. Besides that, I really don't have any... Good fire rate, good damage, good range. It's just a good weapon. There's not, like I said, I don't have much to say about it, so yeah, moving on. 23, we have the VZ52. So, and this is the rifle variant. So, this thing is basically just the SKS, but slightly better. I don't know, I prefer VZ52 over SKS, only slightly. I feel like if you were to ask me tomorrow, this might change, but I prefer VZ52 a little bit more. So, yeah. Coming at number 22, we have the AK-74. Once again, another great... I mean, this thing's pretty great. I think the best way I can describe this weapon is it is highly consistent. Whenever you pick one of these things up, you know what you're getting. It's good damage, good range, good fire rate, pretty low bloom. I mean, it's pretty easy to use. I mean, it's just not... It's a really easy to pick weapon to pick up, and it's just overall solid. So, yeah. Coming at 21, we have the Swish, or the SW629. So, this thing, man. I mean, this thing's basically just a combat revolver, but better. It's more consistent than the combat revolver, at least in my experience. And the fast reload is really, really nice, especially if you're rocking just one. Like, if you're just rocking one of these, oh boy, this thing is absolutely lethal at close range. So, yeah, mad respect for it. Moving on. Number 20, we have the Leshev. This shotgun is... I love this shotgun. It's satisfying to shoot. It's satisfying to use. And like I said, if you are in its designated range, you're going to get absolutely shredded. This thing will one-pump you most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time you're going to get a one-pump. The only reason why it's this low is just because I feel like, and this is a whole nother debate for a whole nother day, but shotguns and Vigor are just not super viable in most situations, because most fights in this game are medium to long range, and obviously the Leshev's a shotgun. It's not really designed for that. But regardless, it is still a fantastic weapon. So, moving on. 19, we have the AUR Para. Honestly, I don't really have much to say about this gun. This gun has kind of been a ghost for me. I have not really used this thing in terms of like, I don't think I made a video on this thing in so long. I use it from time to time, but I mean, the best way I can describe it is it's a good weapon. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't pack enough punch. That's the only real gripe I have with it. Fire rate's great, accuracy's great, sight's pretty great, ammo's, like, it's a great weapon. Like I said, it feels like it's missing that certain punch. So, yeah. Alright, moving on. Number 18, we have the AKM, the gold and the standard of all rifles. I mean, this thing is like, this thing is basically just the golden child. It's probably one of the most balanced weapons in the game. It's good fire rate, good damage, good sights, good bloom. I mean, it's hyper consistent. I mean, I have absolutely no gripes about this thing. It's just a good weapon. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah. Moving on, we have M21. Once again, this thing is kind of like the golden child of snipers. It's probably one of the most balanced snipers in the game. Good damage, good range, good sights. It's pretty easy to use. I mean, like I said, M21 is just a fantastic weapon. I have mad respect for M21. So, yeah. Moving on. Number 16, we have the MP5K. So, I have a weird relationship with this weapon. Because on one hand, its bloom is basically non-existent, its damage is pretty decent, and it's suppressed. However, the two biggest gripes I have with this weapon is its iron sights, which are pretty awful, and its damage, which I feel is really inconsistent. Sometimes this thing absolutely shreds some days, and other times it just doesn't. It feels like you're hitting them peas. I don't know. The only reason why it's this low is because it's inconsistent, but regardless, it is still a fantastic SMG. So yeah, moving on. 15, we have the SVD. This is an interesting one. I think this one you could definitely argue that this one could be a lot higher. Personally, I have respect for SVD. High damage, high range, good amount of ammo considering how bulky the thing is. I mean, it's just a good sniper. There's not much more to say about it. It's basically like the M21, but he decided to go on steroids. That's basically the best way I can describe. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'd say it's the M21's bigger, older cousin is the best way I'd describe it. So yeah, like I said, mad respect for it. Coming in at number 14, we have the M249. I don't know why. Okay, in retrospect, this gun probably shouldn't be this high, but I don't care. I love this thing. This thing is absolutely fantastic. I think the biggest reason why it's here is it really doesn't have that many flaws. The two big ones I can think of are the fact that it takes forever to reload and it's heavy. That's where the negatives end. It has high fire rate, high damage. It has 200 bullets, for Christ's sake. Well, but you usually don't need to reload this thing until well after the fight's over. Like, this thing, I just like this thing. I think it's great. Coming at number 13, we have the ES16, or the M16. Once again, this thing is hyper consistent, and I honestly don't think there's no flaws to this thing. And I love this thing. It's fun to use, and the best way to describe it, like I said, it's highly accurate, high damage, good range. These iron sights are okay. They're not amazing, but they're okay. They're passable. M16 is super consistent, and it's super good. That's really all I have to say about it. So, yeah. Moving on. Number 12. B93. So, admittedly, putting this above the M16 is a little iffy. I'm going to be honest. Actually, no, that's very iffy, but I feel that it deserves it. I think this is the best secondary in the game. Hands down. It's not even close. This thing absolutely shreds at close range. And even at medium range, this thing is still very much practical. I think out of all the weapons on this list, and considering how high this thing is, it does have, admittedly, a lot of flaws. Like low ammo count and pretty crazy recoil, especially if you spam it. But I don't know. I just think it deserves a spot. It's just a really, really good secondary weapon. And I think that's why I put it above ES16. It's just because it's a secondary. If it was a primary, then, oh yeah, ES16 is going way above it. But, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what it is, this weapon. I really like it, and the fact that it's a secondary makes it all the more impressive. So, moving on. Coming at number 11, we have SVU. So, this one, I personally do not have a very good experience with this rifle, but I respect how good it is. I know it's a fantastic rifle and all. And I totally, like I said, it's good. But the only problem I have with this rifle is consistency. Say, for example, you're close range and you spam someone. I feel like sometimes the bullets either do nothing or they do everything. And same thing at long range. They're either really consistent or they're really not. And I don't know. I just don't think this thing's all that consistent. But it is still a fantastic weapon nonetheless. So, yeah. Moving on, we have the Remy. Hands down the best shotgun in the game. I absolutely love the Remy. I hate fighting the Remy, but I love using it. And, I mean, this thing is an absolute monster. If you are in a close range situation, or you're like sieging a house, this is probably the best weapon to have in the entire game. Close range, this thing can stand toe-to-toe with pretty much anything. I mean, it is a fantastic weapon. It's easy to use. Good fire rate. God to your damage. Good, like 8 shells, for Christ's sake. I mean, this thing is just good. There's nothing more to say about it. Remy is just a fantastic weapon. So yeah, moving on. Coming at number 9, we have the Angry Woodpecker, or the ADR. This thing is not nearly as good as it once was, but it is still very much a formidable weapon. I mean, high fire rate, high damage, good sights. I mean, this thing's just a good weapon, so yeah. Coming at number 8, we have the AURA-1. This thing, I think the biggest reason why it's as high is because it is so consistently good. It is good damage, good fire rate, good sights, good, it's just good everything. Like, there's literally no flaws to this thing. Even the ammo count's good. Like, it's just, this is a pretty ideal weapon. It's really good, and it's borderline. I wouldn't say it's overpowered, but it's an A tier weapon. It is a really good weapon, and this is always a solid pick. So yeah, moving on. Number 7, we have the L85. So this one is another one where it's similar to the A1. However, I think the L85 does a better job at longer ranges. I think A1's great, but L85 does everything the A1 does, except it has, I think its sight's better, and it just has better range. That's really it. Like I said, just apply everything it says to the A1 and just up the range and up the accuracy a little bit, and that's the L85 for you. So yeah, not much else to say there. So moving on. Number 6, PPSH. This thing is an absolute monster. 70 rounds, high damage, high fire rate. Oh, not high damage, high DPS, I should say. But high DPS, tons of bullets. This thing is just great. It's super easy to use, super easy to get headshots with. I mean, it's just a really, really good weapon. So, yeah. Coming in number 5, we have the VSS. This thing is basically like the SVU, but it's a lot more consistent. It has high damage, high range, pretty good sights, basically no bloom when in third person aim. It's just a good sniper. There's nothing to say about it. It's top tier. So yeah. Coming in at number 4, we have the G3, and this time it has a scope. So this thing, I mean, I don't think I need to say much about this thing. This thing's just great. Like I said, similar to all the other ones, I don't feel like a broken record here, but high damage, high fire rate, and I think this is probably, for sweats, this is the sniper of choice, and it's not hard to see why. I think it is the most consistent sniper in the game. It does high damage, and it's just good damage, good fire rate. It's pretty good at close range because it has 20 bullets. I mean, like I said, this thing's just good. So, yeah. Number 3, we have the Suomi. This thing's like the PPSH, except I feel that it's a little bit more consistent with this damage. Besides that, though, I mean, this thing's basically just the PPSH, but slightly better. Just slightly. So, yeah, at least in my opinion anyway. So, yeah. Moving on to number 2, we have the H-bar. Okay, admittedly, this last one there's maybe a little bit of personal bias here, because this thing was basically my tormentor for the first 6 seasons, but I will happily back it up. So, if I had to describe the H-bar, this thing is basically a fully automatic DMR. This thing is absolutely crazy. 30 bullets, it can go full auto, it has good range, good accuracy, good fire rate, no bloom to speak of, no recoil. I mean, this thing is just crazy. It is just nuts. So, like I said, H-bar, fantastic weapon, and I was tormented by this thing for so long, so yeah. And finally, coming in at number 1, I think if you watched any of my videos, you knew exactly what weapon this is going to be. It's F1. It's Bugle. I mean, come on. This thing is busted. This thing is absolutely broken. It is honestly, it's literally become a gag on this channel how many times I died to this stupid thing. Let's run it down. It has stupid fire rate, stupid damage, stupid accuracy. The only real flaw with the Bugle is the iron sights on it are terrible. That's really it. And I guess the ammo count is pretty limited, but usually your opponent is well dead before you can get halfway through the mag. Like, F1 is broken. It is so broken. So, yeah, I'm going to stop myself there, because quite frankly, I could probably dedicate 10 minutes just complaining about the Bugle. So, yeah. With all that being said, though, congratulations. You made it to the end of the list. You managed to put it with me talking for however long this video is going to be. So, yeah. If you guys ended up enjoying this, please hit the like button, subscribe. This was an absolute bear to make and edit, because yeah, this was hard. So, if you did enjoy it, please comment down below and let me know if you want to see more videos like this. And with all that being said, please, like I said, hit the like button, subscribe, do, and then I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.